screaming would not stop as I stumbled around in the dark at 3 a.m. amidst hushed voices, extreme sleep deprivation, and the incessant prayers that seemed to be the only thing that was answered by silence. Now, the same introduction could be used to start the beginning of a good prisoner of war movie or book. But in reality, that would be an accurate description of what I remember in my first 2 weeks of parenthood. You know, at the same time, through those tears, through the exhaustion, through the confusion, I also remember every night going to my son's room, sitting at the foot of his crib, and hearing him breathe in and out, and never, ever being more thankful for anything but those moments, and knowing that my son was okay, and that he was sleeping. That was a good thing, too. Before we spend a few minutes talking about 5 things that you can be to be a good support for families, especially parents, I want you to think about, if you're a parent, think about, at the end of the day, the love that you have for your children. Maybe you remember one of those moments like I did, sitting at the foot of my son's crib. Or maybe if you're not a parent, think about the time when you realize the love that your parents had for you, or better yet, the love that God the Father has for you, and the way that He sees you as a gift. I want to start with this, and I want you to pause and think about this. Now, we start with this because the mission of our ministry is to bring teens into a deeper relationship with Jesus Christ by welcoming every teen as family into a home in which they are blessed when they walk through our doors, while they are here, and when they leave. And I want to look at this topic of parents through the lens of the love of God the Father and the love of the parents have, because at the end of the day, I think if we see the parents' love that they have for their children, we'll be more equipped to do good ministry to our teens and to their families. Because we must begin by realizing that the parents experience greater heights and deeper depths than we will ever with their teens. But we also must recognize that their love for the teens is far more than anything we could ever comprehend. In ministry, when frustrations arise, we can often play the blame game, and that can lead back to putting the blame on the parents. Oh, why didn't they raise their kid this way? Or, he never goes to Mass. It's probably because his parents don't go to Mass either. Whatever the reason is, I want you to put those aside, and I want to start by challenging us to instead put parents on a pedestal and see it as our mission to keep them up there and support them. If the end game for us is to bring teens into a deeper relationship with Jesus, we have to realize that the reality is the biggest indicator of what a teen's faith will look like is the faith of their parents. Statistics show that if you want to know what their religious beliefs and practices will look like when they're an adult, then look at their parents. I love what Christian Smith says. He says, studies show that the single most important measurable factor determining the religious and spiritual lives of teenagers and young adults is the religious faith, commitments, and practices of their parents. We will get what we are. If you want your teen and your small group to find belonging in the family of God and bless them while they are with you, then you have to find ways to support the family at home. So I want to give you 5 things that you should be to support the parents of your teens in a way that helps them realize their mission and ours that they've been tasked with and we've been tasked to support them in. The first thing that you should be is an older sibling. Now, a mature older sibling does not attempt to take over the role or the authority of the parent. Rather, the authentically Christian older sibling walks alongside the parent, following their lead in supporting in the development and growth of their younger siblings. Now, you might ask, okay, how do I do that? How do I be an older sibling? The first thing that you need to recognize and I need to recognize is that one size does not fit all. At my time at my small Catholic college that I went to during my undergrad years, I remember the first day of move-in day, before school started, where all the freshmen would come for their first time. And we would joke about how, as they came up the hill to our university, that it would be 15-passenger van after 15-passenger van, bringing the typical Catholic family with 15 kids dropping off their 2 that have been, for the first time in their lives, not homeschooled, aka Franciscan University. So, This is an image that some of us might have of the typical Catholic family, the nuclear family with a mom and a dad and with a bajillion kids. But we have to realize, and I know that I'm sure you don't think this completely, but we have to realize that not all families are nuclear. But there's mixed families, there's divorced families, there's families that are composed of single moms, single dads. There's families now that we have in our youth group that are of same-sex parents. All of these a lot of them come from a generation that were under-catechized and that were fully fledged members of an American Catholicism that was being fully assimilated into the fullness of American culture. No longer were we had our own identity as Catholics, but we were becoming more American than we were Catholics. And so with that, along with that, comes a presupposition of distrust towards the church, a disposition of saying, you know what, I'm questioning authority. And this is the first time we see this in the rise of these parents' culture. And we have a bunch of very, very faithful parents. But we have to realize that they're mixed into this generation of this overall American experience of Catholicism. So whether it be the nuclear family or the single mom or the same-sex couple, here's what we got to remember. I love this. This is from Kara Powell from Growing Young. She says the vast majority of the time, those parents, now we're talking about those on the fringes, the seemingly uninvolved, the disinterested, or the uncaring, those parents, like all parents, love their kids and want to do right by them. Start with the assumption that they love their kids more than we love their kids. That's how we start, by being an older sibling. Because besides God himself, no one could ever tell me that they love my son more than my wife and I do. Being an older sibling in the family of God means that I, as John Paul II talks about, must never forget that the parents have been appointed by God himself as the first and principal educators of their children. Next to the home, the witness of the catechist may be pivotal in every phase of the catechetical process. The key word in there, next to the home and the family. The witness and instruction of the parents always comes first, and so it is our duty not to be their parents, but to be their older siblings in the family of God. The second thing that you can be to be the best core member for your teen and for families is to be a cheerleader. Now, a cheerleader is somebody who is on the side of the teens and the parents, because in reality, these things should not oppose one another, because our default mode as core members should be to trust the parents and that we trust that they want what is best for their teens. So how do we do that? The first thing that you can do is give the parents the benefit of the doubt. In your conversations with teens, when you're talking to a teenager who is challenging their parents or disagreeing with their parents or questioning their parents' love, be on the side of the parents. Help encourage them. Help them to see that these parents are people and that they have a deep love for their teens. When I was in high school, I had a hard time seeing my parents as people. They were just, my parents. And so you can be a link in the chain. You can be a cheerleader for the parents and helping them to see the love that they have for their children and showing that to their children. So not only when you're with the teens, but also behind the closed doors when you're in your thoughts or whatever, instead of going the default of being frustrated with parents, one thing that you can do is always thank parents for sharing their teens with us. Even the parent who has, is of the teen who is on Snapchat during your small group who just will not listen, whatever it might be, thank the teens for that. Thank the parents for that teen. We might never see the fruit that come from our efforts. And even when we do see those fruits, we might want to fall into the trap of thinking, we are God's gift to these teens that we serve. We are God's gift to these families. But in reality, our mentality and humility should be that the teens are a gift to the church from God and their parents. We have the privilege of cheering them on in their journey of faith. Now, the third thing that you can be to be the best core member for families and teens is to be a bridge builder. A bridge builder is always looking for opportunities to strengthen the relationship between teens and their parents. If we know that a teen's faith is primarily influenced, by the lives and faith life of their parent, then a bridge builder does everything in their power to reach the parents and facilitate peace and understanding between them and their teens. Now, okay, how do I do that? The first thing that you can do is seek out face-to-face interaction. For those of you that have teens who aren't driving to Life Night, make it a goal in your first month to shake the hands of every teen, every parent of your teens that are in the car line. Let them know who you are and that you're here to support them. And you can follow up, and for those that maybe have teens that drive themselves to Life Night, follow up with emails. At the beginning of the year, send out to the whole group, introduce yourself, let them know who you are, let them know what you're about, let them know why you want to be with their teens on a weekly basis and walking with them in their faith, why that's important to you and how you want to support them. Now, the other thing you can do is to be a bridge builder, is to keep parents in the loop throughout the year. In addition to the mass emails that we send out to the whole ministry, explaining the night, giving parents questions, all that kind of stuff to help equip them at home, it's even better, and you are uniquely situated to give direct personal feedback and suggestions that will help bridge the gap from Life Night and the car ride home, or the next opportunity that parents have to talk with their teens. Only you're the adult who knows what went on during small group, what discussion happened, and you are uniquely situated and uniquely poised to be able to help build that bridge between teens and their parents, and helping the parent get the conversation started at home, and helping the parent help grow the teen in the faith, because again, that is their duty, that's their responsibility, and that's why we are there to help. The fourth thing that you can do to be what you need to be for teens and their families is to be a model. Now, what I mean by that is modeling family habits in your group. A model of family habits, they seek to take what is good from their own family experience while always growing in their own understanding of how the family of God functions and brings these experiences to the small group. I say this because we have to remember that not every person has the perfect quote-unquote family, there's plenty of teens in your group that are going to have a less than ideal family situation or background. And even for some, the word family might call to mind an argument that they had earlier that night, or even a source of pain rather than a source of life and love. So for us, we need to make sure that we're being representatives of the family of God. And we should seek to model the things that transcend even the best of earthly family life as we seek to bring teens into intimacy with, ultimately, their Father who is perfect in heaven. Okay, so how do I do that? How do I be a model of family? I think a great thing that you can do is take the time to think about the things that make you feel part of your family and make you feel at home, going back to our mission statement. How can you incorporate some of those habits that you have, those traditions that you have in your small group? What are ways that you can strengthen the bonds of the group by making it feel like family, making it feel like home? Lastly, and most importantly, the best thing that you can be for teens and their families is to be an intercessor. Now, an intercessor is one who takes heart towards the words of the Second Vatican Council. And the Second Vatican Council says this: parents must be acknowledged as the first and foremost educators of their children. Their role as educators is so decisive that scarcely anything can compensate for their failure in it. Their role as educators is so decisive that scarcely anything can compensate for their failure in it. Now, understanding the weight of responsibility that is placed on the shoulders of parents, we should respond to the call of St. Paul to the Galatians when he says to Christians to bear one another's burdens. How great is the responsibility of these parents, knowing that their role, if they fail in it, it might mean the salvation of their teen. What a grave responsibility that we have if you're a parent. And we have to keep that in our minds as we see our duty, not to just pray for the teens, because I think a lot of us probably pray for the teens, or you think about them every week, and maybe you go to adoration or say a rosary for them. But you need to keep your ears and your eyes open for the needs and prayers of the parents. And a great way to do, okay, how do I do that? An easy example is listening for the needs of the teens, and then asking yourself, okay, what does that mean in terms of the needs for the parents? And an easy example would be, when a teen asks to pray for a sick grandparent, and you can say, well, okay, sick grandparent, that means I need to pray for the parents whose parent it is. That's an easy one. Now, an example that you might want to take a little deeper for reflection is maybe a teen comes up to you and shares that they've been struggling with depression, struggling with self-abuse or whatever it might be. We take that opportunity to not only walk and journey with the teen and pray for the teen, we also take that opportunity to walk and journey with a parent. Because I want you to look at that situation of the suffering of the teen and recognize that the parent suffers as well in such a great way. All we have to do is think of Mary, in the presentation of the Lord with Simeon, when he said, Simeon blessed Mary and said to Mary, he said, "Behold, this child is destined for the fall and rise of many in Israel, and to be a sign that would be contradicted. And then he goes to say, you yourself a sword will pierce. You yourself a sword will pierce." I think we often forget to realize that when a teen suffers, when a child suffers, the parent suffers in a way that is so great, so deep. And so looking for the ways that you can be an intercessor specifically for the needs of the teens, you can also do that taking those situations and applying them to the parents and praying for them to be that support that they have in their role of raising their teens in the faith. So with these 5 ways, what happens? What is the result if we do that? I love the quote from Blessed Paul VI in Evangelii Nuntiandi when he says this. He says, "In a family which is conscious of this mission, all the members evangelize and are evangelized." The parents not only communicate the gospel to their children, but from their children, they themselves can receive the same gospel as deeply lived by them. If our ministry is to create an environment of family, if our mission is to create an environment of home, if what we do is to bless teens as they come in while they're here and when they leave, then one of the best things that we can do is serving the families. Because when we do that, we recognize there's this cyclical evangelization that happens. If we want to lead them into a relationship with Christ, we help them to see Jesus and take that to their homes. And we trust that the parents are there to evangelize their teens as well. And we need to do everything that we can do to do that. So these are 5 ways that you can be the best core member, not only for teens, but for their families, and specifically their parents. God bless you.